Welcome back, Truth Seeker. It is Thursday, April 17th, 2025. I am your host, Zachary K. Hubbard, aka Zeke, the Numbers Geek, a nickname my cousins once gave me decades ago. This is episode 1 of the new podcast. Count on it. And since it is the first podcast, let's talk about what the show's going to be about. You might be watching and you might be familiar with me, and you can probably very well imagine what this podcast will be about. For people who are new here, I've been on the interwebs for going on 12 years come this August, putting out content consistently for years just under my own name, Zachary K. Hubbard. And starting in 2018, I adopted the YouTube handle GematriaEffectNews, which came from the Wednesday night show I used to broadcast on Truth Frequency Radio, a now defunct radio network, unfortunately. I've been putting off doing a consistent podcast for a long time, and I nearly put it off again tonight because, quite frankly, I am absolutely exhausted. The new thing in my life, well, as of 5 months ago yesterday, is having a sweet little girl, and she is just a bundle of joy, but she has definitely taken a toll on the sleeping. And for whatever reason, this week, she is having an exceptional week of not sleeping. And that said, there's no excuses. This show needs to get on the way, so that's why we are here tonight. And I will consistently be here on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. I might have to skip a night here and there due to father duties, but I would like this to be a 3-night-a-week podcast. If you're familiar with me, I put out content every day, so 3 days a week shouldn't be a problem. Yes, I will continue to do my work on my YouTube channel, GematriaEffectNews, but that is a mostly defunct channel as well. YouTube has put it in algorithm hell, and I do not think it can escape. So we're hoping this fresh new name, Count on It, will help break the curse of the current algorithm problems that we have been suffering from. And why is the show called Count on It? For a number of reasons. For one, your host is somebody you can count on. I am here every day pumping out content, written, produced, stuff behind a paywall on my Patreon. That's mostly for the sports enthusiasts who like to take advantage of the rig system. If you're saying, what rig system? Well, you've tuned into the right podcast, because that's another thing that we'll be touching on daily, episode by episode. Counting. Once upon a time, the Philadelphia 76ers had their shot clock keeper take center court, and he had passed a milestone never passed in NBA history. He had done a number of games as the shot clock keeper that set an NBA record, and the t-shirt he went out to center court with said, "Who's counting? Who's counting?" And sadly, not long after that ritual, that man dropped dead. And it was no accident the way he passed. If you pay attention to the world of entertainment and sports, there are a lot of suspicious deaths in the industry. And if you've ever heard the phrase, your days are numbered, that phrase didn't come out of thin air. There's a reason for it. And one thing that I tend to talk about a lot is what's really going on in the world of entertainment with suspicious deaths. If you're new here, I would encourage you to look up these 2 songs tonight and to read the lyrics, because this will become a recurring theme with the podcast. First, look up the song Murder by Numbers. It's about how killing is the sport of the elite, and it is simple. It is as simple as ABC is 1, 2, 3. And that song was recorded in 83, which is not an arbitrary year. Another thing we'll talk about a lot on this podcast is the Kabbalistic practice of coding numbers into words. Again, if you're not familiar with Kabbalah, it would be another thing to research, because it's going to be a frequent topic on this show because of its great relevance, which is something that is unknown to most common people. But within Kabbalah, there's this idea that God created the world with letters, numbers, and words. It's a bit like Genesis, where God speaks the world into existence over numbered days. He creates the world through language over numbered days, and then he rests on the seventh day. And that's something I need right now, is some rest. But we're here anyway. If I do sound tired tonight, I apologize. I try to be more energetic, but I am. If you were looking at your cell phone right now and I was a cell phone, the battery is down. Anyhow, Kabbalah, letters, numbers. Words have numerical values. This goes back to the biblical languages: Hebrew, Aramaic, ancient Greek. You learned probably about the idea of letters and numbers through Roman numerals. Well, the same practice is alive and well within the English language, and I didn't know this until I was 30 years old. I am now 2,178 weeks old as of today. I was once born on a Thursday, so if you want to work on your counting, you can figure out how many years old I am, but I just want to give you that little exercise first. Or is that silly? I'm 41 years going on 42. We won't play silly games. I'll try not to do that with you. But yeah, I did have to look it up. I looked and I was like, wow, 2,178 weeks old, huh? Time flies. But anyhow, the practice of coding numbers into words. It is known as gematria, gematria. I hear it pronounced all different ways. The word is so foreign to most people that the pronunciation is not even agreed upon. But I learned about this from a 1926 book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. That book will turn 100 years old next year in 2026. And it's a very intuitive system. It's ABC is 1, 2, 3. There's 4 base ciphers of the English language: the alphabetic order, the reverse alphabetic order, and both orders with numerology applied. We will reference this system endlessly. You can count on that. But within this system, the word murder itself equates to 83. Like the song Murder by Numbers came out in 1983. And if you look up the Hollywood movie poster for the film with the same title, Murder by Numbers, you'll see how they encoded an 83 right into the letters. So yeah, please look up the lyrics to Murder by Numbers and look up the lyrics to the song Gematria, the killing name. And I think just for the sake of consistency, I think most people just prefer to call the word gematria. Seems to roll off the tongue a little bit easier. Sounds a bit like geometry, which is fitting because it means geometry in language. And we'll cover things about that in future broadcasts, but just understand that will be a big thing that we're discussing routinely on this show. Count on it. The practice of counting, dates, numbers, the value of words, and how all things come together. And literally, if you learn this skill, literally, it's no exaggeration, you will see how your news media is literally Kabbalistic, contrived propaganda every single day. I'll give some examples of that tonight, just talking about what's buzzing right now as we do this broadcast, April 17th. Top story in the U.S. today. Top story in the U.S. today is the mass shooting at Florida State. And what's interesting about that is Florida State's known as the Seminoles. Florida State University, they are the Seminoles. And the mass shooting today comes 77 days after January 30th. And if you're saying, well, why would that matter? Why does that count of 77 days matter? Well, January 30th is the day in history the most famous Seminole in the history books died, and that is Osceola, the Seminole who refused to go along with Andrew Jackson's Indian Removal Act. So it's 77 days after his death anniversary, and he died in captivity, captured by the federal government for refusing to go along with the law that was passed by the government, removing him from the land that he was native to. But again, 77 days after his death anniversary, Florida State equates to 77. And as I said, there's 4 base ciphers of the language. Florida State also equates to 194, as does Tallahassee. And right now, the Indian Removal Act is 194 years old and change. And again, today's news is nothing new. What you will realize is the people who contrive these rituals, which is what they absolutely are. Absolutely, these are rituals. They are constantly paying tribute to history. And as we also know, you've heard the phrase, your number's up. You've also heard the phrase, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. And what these people do, they're master storytellers. All great storytellers know how to use irony. You can't watch a movie or read a great book that's not loaded with irony. It's a key element in storytelling. The reason the natives were able to be removed from their land is because they were technologically outmatched, and largely because they did not have gunpowder and not on the level the Europeans did, who did trade some with them. But they were outmatched in terms of weaponry. They were outgunned. And with that, they were genocided. And they were also genocided through the use of germ warfare technology. Think about a mass shooting at Florida State University, the Seminoles, paying tribute to the history of the death of Osceola, the last Seminole to stand his ground. And also think about it in this light. What was in the news the day prior, April 16th? If you're not aware because you don't watch the news, I understand. I can't stand watching the news either. The only reason I do is to educate the populace about the way we're being mocked. If you're not sure what was in the news the night prior, one of the top stories was David Hogg. You might recall David Hogg. He became the face of the Stoneman Douglas shooting, even though he was not at the school because he'd already graduated a year earlier. You should ask yourself, why is it that a student who had already graduated from Stoneman Douglas became the face of the shooting at a school that he no longer attended? You might recall the Emma woman with the shaved head who was also in the same boat. She also became very much the face of it. But last night, all over the news, from the New York Times to CNN to MSNBC to the rest of it, NPR, it was about how the Democratic Party has promoted David Hogg to its leadership. And his remarks were that he will get the entire party on board with doing something major about guns. And of course, what they're referring to is gun control and undermining the Second Amendment. And a lot of people now have this idea that we don't really need the Second Amendment. There's no real need for a revolution. We don't need to protect ourselves from enemies, foreign or domestic. We have standing armies. We have a police force, which is like a standing army. The government's here to keep us safe. They're here to protect our interests. And it's not really our job anymore. Our job is to go to school, go to work, make an income, raise families, and let the government do the safekeeping. And this is a common mindset in America right now, and it's not the right mindset. Case in point, who did the shooting today at the school? The story is that it was the son of one of the deputy sheriffs. And when you pay attention to these mass shootings, so often they're former police carrying out the shooting or former military. They are our protectors that are doing the harming. In my 12 years of keeping track of this, I'd say it's right near 50% at the very least, and that's a conservative estimate, that the mass shooters are former military and former police. And meanwhile, you turn on the CNNs of the world, you have Anderson Cooper advocating night after night that he'd like to see a nation where only military and police are allowed to own guns. This was not the spirit of the founders at all. The spirit of the founders was they were coming over from Europe where there was tyranny, where there was authority that abused the people they ruled over, and to ensure, or at least try to protect that from happening again, they wanted to have a populace that had the capability to protect themselves from that. Thus, we were given the First and Second Amendment. And those are things that are being torn apart and becoming memories of the past. And of course, there's plenty of nations that exist today that do not have a First or Second Amendment. And the United States of America is one of the last nations to have any kind of gun rights at all, even though they have been severely undermined. Now, again, just about this practice of coding numbers into words and its relevance and how it enables you to see through the ritualism day after day. And again, how we are literally being mocked. What made me jump onto the internet and become a content creator and somebody who was speaking out in cyberspace. I understand, I've essentially been speaking out since I was 18 years old. It was 9/11, 2001, shortly after my 18th birthday, that got my interest in the subject of numbers and ritualism. And after learning a number of things back then, I began to share information and attend gatherings and try to speak out in any venue I could about my concerns about our society and where we were being taken and what our government looked like to me. I was the type of teenager that realized the election of George W. Bush in 2000, when he defeated Al Gore in Florida, that he was named number 43 in a state where his brother was the 43rd governor. Of course, it all came down to Florida. Again, his brother was the 43rd governor there. Their daddy was once the 43rd vice president. Those type of things stood out to me. September 11th, happening in New York, the 11th state, 11 years to the day of George Herbert Walker Bush's New World Order speech, when the World Trade Centers looked like an 11 and the first flight was AA-11. These things always caught my attention, and I said, there must be something about numbers. What is it about numbers? Why would anyone perform rituals with numbers? I was 18 then. I was 30 when I found Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages and learned a little bit about this Kabbalistic practice of encoding numbers into words. From there, I began journaling, writing everything out with pen and paper, doing the math by hand. And day after day, I just saw the synchronicities in the news, and I said, wow, this looks like it's a daily practice. And here I am 12 years later to tell you it is absolutely a daily practice. Just yesterday, Wednesday, RFK Jr. gave his first press conference as health secretary. And he made an announcement that environmental toxins are causing autism in our youth. And that's why the rate is now 1 in 31 children that are born are diagnosed with autism. Something that when he was born in 1954 was practically unheard of. It was something more like 1 in, don't quote me, but it's probably more like 1 in 31,000 at most back then had autism. It was probably a lot less than that. It was almost unheard of. And now 1 in 31. Exponential. But again, all the headlines. Pay attention to headlines. When they put parentheses around words, there's some number magic behind those words. Every single time. You can prove it just by learning this elementary code of letters and numbers. Environmental toxins equals 106. He makes this announcement on the 106th day of the year. And again, a common environmental toxin that is warned about, especially for pregnant mothers, is mercury. Our world is contaminated with mercury because of the industrial and consumer culture that we have. As we know, it accumulates largely in big fish, the tunas of the world. Pregnant women are often advised not to eat tuna because they have such high mercury levels in them. Now, consider that he had his press conference on a Wednesday. Wednesday is the day of the week named after Mercury. And making matters more interesting, this administration took office on January 20th. By him talking about this on the 106th day of the year, that means it was 86 days later. 86. Kind of a mean number, too. 86th to get rid of. Hiroshima got 86th on August 6th. There are people in the world who want to 86 the population in the name of saving the earth. You've heard the Bill Gateses of the world give TED Talks talking about the need to reduce population to save the earth from destruction. If you haven't heard it, you should look it up. His 2010 TED Talk, it'll blow your mind what he reveals in there. But anyhow, 86 days later, on a Wednesday, in this gematria code, Mercury equals 86. Mercury 86. RFK Jr. has developed this reputation as an anti-vaxxer, even though he says that all of his children are vaccinated. And he recently said that he will be going along with all CDC recommendations, just like everybody else who's ever held the position. On April 7th, he advised all people that the best form of protection from measles, mumps, and rubella was to get the MMR vaccine. Funny enough, MMR vaccine equals 47. He advised that on April 7th as part of the administration of number 47. But this thing with Mercury, you might recall in 2012, Google scrubbed thousands of videos from YouTube. And it was Jenny McCarthy, her advocacy organization, all of the parents who had the same story as Jenny McCarthy. Back when that happened, I was working in a children's home, managing an autistic children's home. I've been a school teacher in my lifetime. I've worked in group homes, homeless shelters, and I've managed an autistic children's home. I knew parents of the children in the home I managed who had the same story as Jenny McCarthy, and the many parents who shared their stories online, the doctors who've supported Jenny McCarthy's position, that their children changed drastically around age 2 when they got the MMR pokidoke. When they got that, the child drastically changed. All of a sudden, the parents seemed foreign to them. They no longer had eye contact with their child. They weren't responding to anything that they responded to prior. A drastic change almost overnight. There are tens of thousands of parents who have this same story in the world. And we now have a system, a corrupt media, an internet controlled by companies who censor things that go against the authoritarian narrative. And all of these parents are now considered to be kooks, science deniers, liars, misinformed, ignorant, mistaken. The authorities are 100% sure they're wrong, that all of their stories are a giant coincidence. But these same authorities also will tell you they don't know what's causing this. They have. Now, about the Mercury thing, a lot of people in this nation right now think Donald Trump is some second coming, which is completely unbelievable. And that's also why this podcast is here, to pull those kind of people, to pull their heads out of their assholes, I should say, one at a time. Donald Trump participates in this mocking of humanity. Donald Trump is the same person who declared Operation Warp Speed on May 15th, 2020, which is Mercuralia, the day to celebrate Mercury. And of course, that is the common preservative in jabs, Mercury. And the scientific authority wants to say that it is non-harmful, which is curious because a lot of us learned growing up about the dangers of mercury to health and the story of Mad Hatters, how it changed neurology, behavior, emotional response. If you've ever met an autistic child, you start to think about that. You say, I see some parallels here. A lot of things that are happening in this world, if you just use your own God-given critical thinking skills and you don't let the authorities tell you what to believe or what to think, a lot of truth is hidden right in plain sight. And the reason they get away with the mockery that they do is because the occult ritualism they're into, like having, RFK Jr., who's talked about the dangers of mercury and jabs, having him have his first press conference on a Wednesday, 86 days after the administration took office. They know that the average person doesn't realize that Wednesday is named after Mercury. They don't know that in astrology, Mercury is associated with trickery and deception. You know, today's April 17th. In 2 days, it will be April 19th. It'll be the anniversary of the American Revolutionary War beginning. It'll be the anniversary of Waco. It'll be the anniversary of what was said to be the Revenge of Waco by Timothy McVeigh, Oklahoma City. R.I.P. to Terrence Yankee, the officer who said there was something definitely wrong that day with the official story, and he was found beaten, tied up, all kinds of wounds over his body, and the authorities ruled it a self-deletion. But the reason I'm bringing up Oklahoma City is because, do you know what day it happened on? It happened on a Wednesday. And Timothy McVeigh, the story was, he planned off this amazing attack, but while escaping in his Mercury Marquis, he forgot to tighten up the license plate, and it was hanging off, which caused the sheriff to pull him over. The Mercury Marquis. And I think we'll do a broadcast this weekend talking about Oklahoma City in greater depth and what this practice of letters into numbers really reveals about that day. Or maybe I should just give a taste right now rather than be such a teaser. If you're new here, I've been working on a book for 5 years now, and I could have finished the book 3 years ago easily, and I wish I just would have, but I've been trying to perfect the thing. And if you ever write something, don't try to perfect it, because you'll probably end up doing what I've done, spinning your wheels for 3 years needlessly, when it would have been better just to get your work out that you put so much time into long ago. And I might do a broadcast on that one day, but the book is about the number 201, and it's a very special number. It's a very special number. There's so much to say about it. There's a reason I've been writing a book about it for 5 years. But as you will learn, it's one of the most special numbers in all of this study, and it gets its significance from the Hebrew practice of coding numbers into words. It represents enlightenment, knowledge. Knowledge is power. It has to do with being illuminated and what's behind the name Illuminati, which, if you're not aware, was founded by a Jesuit, Adam Weishaupt, May 1st, 1776, just before the American Revolution. And a lot of people don't realize, but the Jesuits were warned about when this nation was being created by Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, who just happened to die together on the same day. The Jesuits were in suppression. The Jesuits were the military order of the Catholic Church. Jesuit priest Christopher Clavius is responsible for the calendar. The Jesuits are responsible for the standardization of the 26-letter alphabet. The Jesuits run the largest private school and hospital network in the world. The Jesuits moved the United States of America's capital to Washington, D.C., and they moved Inauguration Day to the 201st day of the nation's age, which is the 20th of January. Okay, when you measure from July 4th to the 20th of January, that's the 201st day of the nation's age. But with regards to April 19th, that's also the day in history that Ignatius of Loyola became the first superior general of the Jesuits, recognized by the Roman Catholic Church. And in this gematria code, Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits, his name equates to 201, just like the Jesuit order equates to 201, just like Timothy McVeigh equates to 201, just like his accomplice Terry Lynn Nichols equates to 201, just like Mercury Marquis equates to 201. And if you look at the periodic table, the only element that is at an atomic mass of 201 is Mercury. And if you look into the 1830 Webster's definition of Jesuitism, the definition was trickery and deception. And again, this 201 number has a lot to do with our rigged selections. Has a lot to do with why Donald Trump sacrificed his ex-wife 45 years after their marriage and buried her on the 201st day of the year. course, she died exactly 60 weeks into the first ever Jesuit Ignatian year on the same day that Donald Trump said he'd be running in the upcoming election, the 60th, not to mention his name equals 60, or that the Jesuits, their order began with 60 members. Well, that was in their first decade with the Roman Catholic Church. Of course, RFK Jr., Jesuit educated like Trump. Again, ultimately what this show's about is unveiling undeniable truths that are hidden in plain sight, things that almost everybody's overlooking every single day. You know, the head of the Federal Reserve right now, Jerome Powell, Jesuit educated. Another big story today was Trump calling on the firing of Jerome Powell. Of course, we're talking about The Apprentice, Donald Trump. That show came out in the time of Bill Clinton's presidency. Remember who Trump beat the first time around? The guy with the small hands who can only beat the ladies? The proud pussy grabber? But anyway, today, Trump calls on the firing of Jerome Powell, and he does it 72 days after Jerome Powell's 72nd birthday. Recurring numbers we'll talk about a lot on this show. 201, it'll come up all the time. So will 72. They're related numbers. Jesuit order also equates to 72, as does President Trump. The first Jesuit pope, Pope Francis, the first to live in Suite 201 at the Vatican, became the first Jesuit pope on the 72nd day of the year. Not to mention his birth name, Jorge Mario Bergoglio equals 201. Pope Francis, the Jesuits created in Paris, France, the last French pope, the 201st in the history of the Catholic Church. RFK Jr., who's Jesuit educated. If you want to pause this and take a look at his YouTube social media, last summer, July 2nd, 7/2, he posts a video called RFK Jr. the Snake on July 2nd, 7/2. His hearing to be sworn in as the health secretary began on January 29th, the first day of the year of the snake. He was questioned countlessly about his thoughts on the current vaccine schedule for children up to age 18. And numerous times it was brought up that that schedule involves 72 shots, and they wanted to know that if he will continue to endorse that system of 72 shots. Funny enough, year of the snake equals 72, as does RFK Jr. You'll learn this system is not arbitrary. It's very carefully and cleverly thought out. You start to realize that the actors on the world stage, they're chosen Kabbalistically, meaning they have the right numbers in their name, in their date of birth. Imagine you're creating a theater production. You pick the person for the part that has the right characteristics for the part. The Cabal, they treat each day as another theatrical production, another day to tell a story, to move the audience in a way that's beneficial to them. Listen to our story today so that you can give up more of your rights and liberties and fall further under the trap of our control. And under our control, we'll be sure to tax you more and make everything cost more so that it benefits us more and grows more power over you day by day. Remember, this is exactly what was going on in Europe in the time of the Protestant Reformation, which is what brought about the Jesuits. The Jesuits are so 201, they were created 201 months after Martin Luther penned the 95 Theses. I'm talking about Martin Luther, not to be confused with Martin Luther King Jr., who was assassinated on the 95th day of the year, and the nation's first gun control came 201 days later. First gun control legislation, that is, putting serial numbers on guns. Numbers, tracking, ritualism, tributes to history. Those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Did I mention that Event 201 was the name of the coronavirus pandemic simulation? And did I mention that it began on the same day the military World Games began in Wuhan, China? And the military World Games began in Italy, where the Vatican is, in 95? 201 and 95. A massive pairing that happens all the time. Last year, do you remember that Biden signed off on $95 billion for Israel and Ukraine? $95 billion. He did that on the 201st day of the war in Israel. And funny enough, State of Israel equates to 201, just like the Holy Bible. And Catholic equates to 145, like there's 145 more chapters in the Catholic Old Testament. Thus why Israel was created on the 14th day of the 5th month. In the weeks ahead, we'll talk about the significance of how Israel is about to turn 77 years old, a very special number. And again, a number that, in my opinion, does not foreshadow good things to come. Netanyahu, when he came back into power on December 29th, by the way, he stepped down from power June 13th, the day leaving 201 days left in the year, and 1229, December 29th, is a lot like the number 1229, which is the 201st prime. But he came back into power on Albert Pike's birthday, the same Albert Pike who once published a letter about 3 world wars addressed to Mazzini on August 15th, 1871, the Jesuit order's birthday. The Third World War was to be centered on political Zionism. Political Zionism. And again, you just got to say, what are the odds that Netanyahu would come back on that day? Israel with the Lone Star flag. He came back on Texas, the Lone Star state's date of birth. Texas, big, powerful state in the big, powerful United States that pays a lot of the bills for Israel. Anyhow, I'm all over the place, but I'm also trying to lay down where this knowledge fits in with the events that are going on today, the larger events that are going on in the world, the history of how we got to this moment. And again, trying to make it clear why they're doing this. It has to do with Kabbalah and the belief of how God operates. This is a spiritual belief system. And while it might seem strange or ridiculous or absurd to you, understand when you're on the outside looking in at somebody else's spiritual practice, they often do look strange. Imagine being an alien watching a Christian on Sunday kneel down and have a man come in front of them and hand them a cup and say, "The blood of Christ shed for you," and then drinking it down, and then giving them a piece of bread and saying, "The body of Christ shed for you," and then watching them eat it. Unless they did that on their own planet, drink blood and eat bodies, they might find that quite strange. Who is this man that they are eating and drinking of? If you're born into Christianity, it might just seem like commonplace. You've seen it since you were a child. You've been in the church for as long as you can remember. Communion happens every Sunday. When you're a child, you get grape juice and the bread tastes sweet. You might look forward to it. You never really thought that it was a lot like those zombie movies your parents told you not to watch. Again, as strange as all this might seem, it is a real practice. It goes back to Babylon. It is biblical. And with regards to it being biblical, read Genesis 3:2-2. It talks about the tree of life and knowing good and evil. The physical model of Kabbalah is known as the tree of life. It has 3 pillars and 22 paths. It's exactly what's being referred to in Genesis. And Genesis is the first book of the Torah, or the first 5 books of the Bible, known as the first 5 books of Moses. 5, Numbers, counting. The 4th book of the Bible is titled Numbers. But this whole practice of letters and numbers and words is largely connected to the Torah, or the first 5 books of the Bible, and a lot of the numbers that are used in ritualism come right from it. One that we will talk about again and again, because sadly it happens again and again, is Genesis 46. The word sacrifice equates to 46. Genesis 46 is about sacrifice. There's 46 books in the Catholic Old Testament. The word Catholic equates to 46 when you run the alphabetic order in reverse. It equates to 35 when you run it forwards. Think of JFK, killed at age 46 as the 35th president on I-35. Think of Beau Biden, the son of Joe Biden, who died at 46, and he died 201 days before the first Jesuit Pope's birthday, Pope Francis, the first to live in Suite 201. Joe Biden was elected number 46 exactly 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday and then inaugurated on the Pope's 35th day of his age. And right now we're living in the time of the first superior general and pope who are from Latin America, and their birthdays just happen to be 35 days apart. But also, if you look into that funeral of Beau Biden at age 46, the Jesuit priest Leo Jeremiah O'Donovan, whose name equals 201, did the funeral and the inauguration for Joe Biden on the 201st day of the nation's age. His sacrifice was Beau for his election. Trump's sacrifice was his ex-wife, getting buried on the 201st day of the year. These things are not out of the ordinary. These things are part of what is done consistently, routinely. These major rituals that are meant to captivate your attention will have the same numbers encoded in them day after day. Case in point, the woman deputy whose son shot up Florida State today, her name equates to 201. And all of the headlines say the shooting happened in the student union area. That phrase, student union area, equates to 201. Just like the woman whose son shot up the place. All of these major mass shootings in history have that same number in it. Just like how the nation's first gun control legislation came 201 days after MLK's death. This knowledge, it will allow you to see through the agendas that are being waged against humanity, and it will explain to you with enough practice with the knowledge and observance of the knowledge, it will explain to you the who, what, why, when, and where. It all makes perfect historical sense, and it brings to light another phrase we all know. All roads lead to Rome. This knowledge can also be used for self-gain. I didn't get into this work to teach this knowledge for the sake of self-gain. I got into doing this research with the hope that I could wake up my fellow man to see how we are being used, abused, and manipulated and taken to a very dangerous place. And in a moment, I'm going to share with you a big viral trailer that's out there for a movie that's coming out this summer. And it's about to debut at Cannes on May 24th, a very interesting date. It shows Buffalo being driven off a cliff. And I'm going to get to why it's so relevant to what I'm talking about right now. But before we go there, the fun of this knowledge. The last 7 Masters, the streak started with Tiger Woods winning the Masters in 2019. Since that Masters, we've been able to successfully call 6 of the last 7 Masters winners before the tournament began. And every year we look for the same thing, the master numbers in numerology. 11 is the master number, and 22 is the master builder number. And in the case of Gematria, golf equals 22. When Tiger won in 2019, it was 11 years after he won his last major, and it was 22 years after he won his first Masters. This most recent Masters, Rory McIlroy, completes the career Grand Slam, winning his first major in 11 years and winning his 29th PGA event. 29 is the first number with numerology of 11. 2 plus 9 is 11. The career Grand Slam mattered because this was the 89th Masters. Grand Slam in the most simple cipher. A, B, C is 1, 2, 3. G would be the 7th letter, R would be the 18th, A the 1st, and the 14th, D the 4th. Added up, the letters of Grand Slam, it equates to 89. If you apply numerology, Grand Slam equates to 35. Rory McIlroy wins the 89th Masters at age 35, completing the career Grand Slam, not to mention he was born in 89. The big NASCAR event before that was won by Denny Hamlin. When I say Denny and Grand Slam, does it make you think of a popular corporate breakfast chain that advertises all over these sports events? Again, you learn this knowledge, you will learn to see through the world with a whole new lens. This year, we nailed the March Madness tournament again before it began. It seemed easier than ever. Todd Golden, a very rare last name, Golden. Trump's been calling this the golden era. We saw before the tournament began that it was going to end on April 7th. 4-7 as we write in the U.S., like 47. We said, Trump spends a lot of time in Florida. The coach of Florida is Todd Golden. 4-7. Let's look at what Todd Golden's career record would be if he won all 6 games in the tournament to win the championship. Right away, we noticed he'd have his 133rd career win in all of his NCAA career. President, White House, government. All of those words equate to 133, and when you apply numerology, they all equate to 47. President, White House, government, 133, 47. And if you were following me in 2015, you probably recall the first time Trump took the stage on Fox News for the first Republican debate when they had to narrow it down from a field of 20 candidates. The headline they put up on the screen or the ticker or whatever you want to call it, Fox News puts up a stat. According to Forbes, Trump is the 133rd richest man in the world. I said right that night, I said, oh my God, are they telling us The Apprentice is going to be the president? I mean, it seemed absurd at the time, but at the same time, it made so much sense. How were they going to one-up the first ever darker complected U.S. president? And again, a lot of people didn't get the joke with Obama, but he declared he was running for president on February 10th of 2007. Why did that matter? It was the 31st anniversary of the federal government recognizing Black History Month on February 10th, 1976. The 31st anniversary matters because Obama equals 31 and so does slave. And if you run it the big way, slave, Negro, blues, Rasta, they all equal 76, as does Barack Obama. Of course, Acts 7:6 is about 400 years of slavery, and it's the 44th book of the Bible. When Obama put out his book, A Promised Land, he put that out on the day, leaving 44 days left in the year, and the title of the book equals 76. If you've seen his movie, Leave the World Behind, there's 76s all over the film. And you remember, 76 days after its Netflix debut, the news media was kind of joking about how the cell phone outages that day reminded them of Obama's movie. If you remember that, when the cell phone outages happened, that was the big story that day. That was 76 days after that movie came out. That begins with a shot of a nightstand next to a bed with the Philadelphia 76ers mug. And if you pay attention, just 76 is all throughout. That movie also ends with a shot of a billionaire bunker with the name Commodus on the wall. And Commodus is who marks the fall of Rome. And Commodus died in the year 192. Leave the world behind equals 192. If you ever heard of predictive programming, it's putting things in movies that are suggestive of things that are to come in our lifetimes, in our life experience. Obama, the first movie he puts his name on is a movie about the fall of the United States with a tribute to Commodus, when we know that the U.S. is the new Rome, thus all the architecture all over the capital city, including the Roman fasces on the walls of the House of the Representatives, which is the root word of fascism, a term coined by Mussolini, who made the Vatican an independent city-state, who said what fascism is when government and corporation merge. And of course, that's been here for a long time. But yeah, again, if you're new here, we've been at this for 12 years. I have largely made a name for myself through calling sports futures. I'd say a lot of my other work I've done is really a lot more important, but people are so drawn to sports and the money that can be made from gambling. That's where a lot of people's attention goes. So from time to time, we will talk about sports and futures and what's to come. If that's something that you're really into, I do that every single day on Patreon. That's the one part of my work that people truly find valuable, and it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad to me. I wish people valued the exposing of the evil and tyranny and the system that needs to be stopped in its tracks, but I understand that people need to pay the bills, and through this knowledge, a lot of people have changed their lives. Hello, when LeBron came back from down 3-1 and won it on the real King James's birthday at 40-1 odds. Once upon a time, my content commanded hundreds of thousands of views, upwards of 1 million. I've eclipsed only 1 million 2 times in my prolific 12 years on YouTube. I've only eclipsed the 1 million mark 2 times, and in a way, that's not that great because I've made way more than 10,000 videos, to make a long story short. Some people, they've made 100 videos and they've already had a video that got 3.5 million views. Then again, they're not making content that the cabal doesn't want on the internet. And yes, the cabal absolutely is a real thing. And that's also what this show is here to prove, because a lot of people roll their eyes at these things when they shouldn't be. Instead of rolling their eyes, they should be listening, thinking, looking into, having an open mind. So many people have closed minds to things that they should not be closed to. And the reason they have been closed is because they've been programmed by the authorities who mock ideas such as the cabal through movies, television, news anchors. Again, this show here, count on it, is dedicated to reversing those trends that are omnipresent in society. Also, again, just another thing that's big right now, just to give you a taste of this show and the diversity of things we can get into, the tariffs. I got into a debate recently with a popular YouTuber, and I'd say horribly undeservedly is he popular. I do believe a lot of these people that go viral on YouTube are part of some, they're some agents of the cabal. Again, his gentleman's name is Andrew Wilson. He's not a gentleman either. It's nice of me to even refer to him as that. He's really a scumbag. But again, we were having this conversation about letters and numbers and this practice and its relevance. And he's a Trump supporter, keep in mind. I was explaining to him the ritualism that Trump was doing with the tariffs. And it was easy to see that they're rituals paying tribute to history. When Trump implemented his first tariffs on February 1st for this administration, it was exactly on the nose 47 weeks after the anniversary of the publishing of Wealth of Nations. And if you don't know what that is, that book was published March 9th, 1776 by Adam Smith, the father of economics, who in that book argues very persuasively for why tariffs should very rarely be used and what they pose in terms of the possibility of destruction of economies, governments, relations, how they can lead nations to go to war with each other. Again, Adam Smith was the person who pointed out that nations that have free trade are nations that never go to war with each other. Adam Smith has been taught about for centuries in academia, especially in the business world. My undergrad, if anyone wonders, is accounting. Surprise, surprise. I also have a master's in teaching. And if there was such a thing as a doctorate in gematria, I would surely have one of those too. But anyhow, coming back, Trump, number 47. And by the way, Trump equals 47. Yeah. Trump equals 47, like president, like White House, like government, like authority, like Republican, like Democrat, and even like the letters DC themselves when you just run the alphabetic order in reverse. And it all starts to make a lot of sense when you realize DC is known as the Masonic city, and the Masons study the 47th problem of Euclid, and it starts to explain why this nation's birthday was decided as the 4th day of the 7th month, and why George Washington laid the cornerstone for DC on a date with 47 numerology, which was September 18th, 1793. But again, Trump implements his first tariffs 47 weeks after the anniversary of the publishing of the book that explains why tariffs are essentially destructive. And do you know what tariffs equals in gematria? I bet you can guess. It equals 47. And if you run the alphabetic order the other way, it equates to 34, just like how his trade war started with putting an additional 34% tariffs on China, which caused China to retaliate and put an additional 34% on the US, which brought the tally to 54% for both countries. And funny enough, trade war equals 54 like Jesuit order, and the Jesuits are responsible for the mass publishing of Art of War based on the Chinese war general Sun Tzu. Again, so many things to explain, but everything essentially that does happen on the world stage is a Jesuit joke that's going almost all over everyone's head. And the progression of the tariffs has gone up to now 145%, 125%. And to make a long story short, Catholics 145, Jesuitism's 125, and the word numerology itself is 125 when you run it forwards and 145 in reverse. These people use numerology every day in their ritualism, and they operate by something known as the Hegelian dialectic, or in more simple terms, order out of chaos. But anyhow, Trump's tariffs have been massive 47 rituals. And if you want to look into the nation's history, the first tariff legislation passed by the government was actually on the 4th of July back in 1789 in the time of George Washington. But about that 34% thing, recall, after the 34% tariffs were implemented on April 2nd, Trump said he didn't want to do it on April Fool's Day. He did it on 4/2 when war equals 42. So does World War. So does Jesuit. So does Georgetown, which is the nation's first Jesuit university, which was recognized and established 2 months before George Washington became the first recognized president. But anyhow, not Georgetown. The day after he implemented those tariffs was April 3rd. The majority of the world writes that date 3/4, like 34, like tariffs are 34. And that was the day world markets massively tanked due to the tariffs and trade war. And for anyone out there who'd say, well, why would you purposefully tank markets? Understand, if you're in the know and you know when the ritual is going to be implemented and what day to pull the plug, there's a lot of money to be made in the market with options on the way down and on the way up. You can make a killing. And that is what's being done. This is why we need to learn how the system is rigged. Who's doing the rigging? Who's doing the manipulation? Who are the people counting? And the one thing you can count on from this podcast is we'll be here exposing it every single day. So yeah, the name count on it. It has a lot to do with the knowledge. It has a lot to do with the consistency of your host. Again, I am somebody who was here day in and day out. If you don't know my track record, I started this work in August of 2013. Like I said, in a number of months, it'll be 12 years. There is one day in that time period that I did not create a new piece of content, a new piece of research, and I had a pretty valid excuse why. It's because November 15th, 2014, when I came home, my door was kicked in and my house was ransacked and every valuable was stolen and the business I ran out of my house was ransacked and I didn't have a computer either because it got taken. So I spent the day cleaning up the mess, and the next day I got myself a new device so I could get back to work. And again, unless I go through something very similar, you can count on new content from me every single day. Remember that movie with Will Smith? He's got the dog. He's living in the Fallout world. What's that movie called? You know, it's like a zombie movie. I can't think of the title of that movie right now. Blame it on the lack of sleep. But I'm pretty sure most people would know what movie I'm talking about. Will Smith, he's one of those larger-than-life stars. Don't even get me started on his slap at the Oscars as he won Best Actor. It was a tribute to the first darker-complected actor to win Best Actor who had died by the numbers at 94, just before those 94th Oscars. That same actor who died at 94. Man, my mind is slipping. If you're out there listening, I cannot think of the gentleman's name right now. The first darker complected actor to win Best Actor. He won it for a movie about saving Catholic nuns in the desert that runs 94 minutes in length. Again, he ended up dying at 94, and sadly, we predicted that a year before it happened, that he would pass at 94 because of the significance of that number. Roman Catholic Church in this gematria code equals 94. But yeah, he has a famous slap scene in another film in a greenhouse. So at the 94th Oscars, Will Smith... Will Smith in his film where he portrays a gay con man, part of his character is also related to that actor. Bear with me a second. I don't have a I don't have a co-host or somebody to look up and shout into my ear the name I need to say right now. So I need to type into the internet. Who was the first? Sidney Poitier. Thank you. Thank you, internet. Sidney Poitier. Lilies of the Field. Lilies of the Field. Yeah, you look it up. You'll see that movie is 94 minutes, going with his death at 94, going with Will Smith winning the same award at the 94th Oscars. And maybe for your first assignment, you could also go look up my older posts on this. Measure from the date of Sidney Poitier's death until the day Will Smith won the Oscars. Count on it. Count the number of days. And then see how the gematria of the actors' names corresponds with that date. I believe the Will Smith movie where he plays a con man who's also gay. The part of the story he tells is that he's related to Sidney Poitier when he cons people. And supposedly that movie was based on a true story, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, speaking of movies, as we bounce all over the place, I feel like a pinball tonight. I got to play a little bit of this trailer of this movie that's coming out this summer, Eddington, and it's going to debut at the Cannes Film Festival on May 24th. That's another very special day to the Jesuits. There's a reason that Pope Francis had Trump at the Vatican on May 24th, 2017. If you've never seen that photo of Trump next to the Pope with his wife and his daughter, look like they're dressed for a funeral. Sometime we'll talk about how that was foreshadowing of what was going to happen to Trump's ex-wife on the day she died, because it really is all connected. But keep in mind, Cannes is in France, where the Jesuits were created. But this film, Eddington, I'm going to play the trailer. And it's going to blow your mind what's said at the beginning of the trailer, unless you're new here. But a lot of people have heard this trailer and they're like, Zach, I think Hollywood is giving you a legit shout out with the opening sequence of this trailer. And I got to admit, I think they are too, because it's pretty much exactly what's written in my book, Number Games, that I put out in the middle of 2020 when I warned people not to have anything to do with those pokey dokes and why the scandemic was going to last until the year of the tiger came around, which is exactly how long it lasted for. And of course, it was all foreshadowed, and understanding this knowledge, we were able to get ahead of that. Of course, Tiger has the 201 gematria, and every celebrity and their mother who caught the cooties at the start of the scandemic, at least according to the media, they all came out in Tiger gear, including Tiger Woods having to eat his master's dinner alone. Poor guy. Poor guy. But yeah, with regards to Hollywood, so much predictive programming, so much mockery. I got to close tonight's show by just playing the audio of this trailer. And I'm not going to play all of it because back in the day when I first started on YouTube, you were allowed to show trailers. I have shown a trailer, it's been a minute, maybe in the last 2 years, and I lost the video for copyright for showing the trailer. And I thought, whoa, something's changed in the world. You used to be able to show movie trailers. And I don't understand why they wouldn't want you to show the trailer. Don't they put these out to promote their work? I feel like they should be grateful other people are playing it. So I'm not going to show the video, but I'm just going to play the audio. So listen carefully to how this trailer for Eddington begins. And understand, this is a movie set in New Mexico, the 47th state. If you're new here, I have a license plate behind me that always says, what is 47? There's a reason Roswell happened in New Mexico in the year 47, when New Mexico's the 47th state. And it was right after the first official UFO sighting up in Seattle on the 47th parallel. That's why the Space Needle's up there. And for people who don't know, Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates both created their companies in New Mexico and moved them up to Seattle on the 47th parallel. And strangely enough, if you've ever seen They Live, never seen that movie, you got to check that one out too. Just like how you need to look up the lyrics to Murder by Numbers and Gematria, the Killing Name, you need to check out the movie They Live, because it's also the greatest analogy for the things we're talking about day in and day out, and what we will be talking about always on this podcast, about how once you realize that there's this other lens to see the world through, you see it a lot differently. And you see who's part of the cabal and who isn't. But 47 is a very special number to these people. And it's ultimately a number of time and authority. And of course, time is the ultimate authority. And with regards to authority, I should mention that Vatican equates to 47. And so does Francis, as in the first Jesuit Pope. And even the nation France itself equates to 47. And we recently had the first Super Bowl on the Vatican's birthday, Super Bowl 58. And there were 47 points scored in the game. And the Chiefs became 4-2 on the 42nd day of the year on the Vatican's birthday. 4-2 in Super Bowls, that is. And if you look up the Super Bowls Andy Reid and Mahomes participated in through 58, there were 211 points in that game. Like 211 is the Vatican's birthday, February 11th, and 211 is the 47th prime. Not to mention The Apprentice also equals 40, or excuse me, The Apprentice equals 211, where Trump equals 47. But yeah, this movie, Eddington equals 47. It's set in New Mexico. It's a fictional story of something that could have transpired during the time of the pandemic. And it's kind of seemingly an attack on conspiracy theorist types and people who questioned the goodness of the authorities in the time of COVID. So it's a movie looking back at that time period and how things might have gone differently. But what's mind-blowing is this new trailer that just came out on April 14th, 14/4, the anniversary of Lincoln getting shot. And again, Lincoln blamed the American Civil War on the Jesuits. John Surratt, the Jesuit who got away, is the one left out of the history books. It's also the anniversary of the Titanic hitting an iceberg, when almost everyone leaves out the fact that a book was written a decade earlier called Futility, Wreck of the Titan, about the biggest boat thought to be unsinkable sailing from Europe to the U.S. and on its first sail, hitting an iceberg and sinking. But anyway, April 14th, big day in history, 14/4, a lot like 144, a number from the Bible, The Chosen. This movie's going to debut at Cannes on the 144th day of the year. Time equates to 144 in the Jewish system of gematria. And of course, it is a number associated with time because it has a square root of 12, like the hours in the morning, the hours in the evening, the 12 months in the year, the 12 official constellations. Time, 47 and 144. This is a timepiece movie. The trailer released in a time ritual. It's going to debut in 47 land, France, in a time ritual. I got to play this clip. Listen. And then if you're new here, I will explain it to you. If you're not new here, hold on to your jaw.
Of course, they keep looking at that lab in Wuhan, China. If you look at that lab in Wuhan when that was established, it was 1956. Of course, that was the year Tom Hanks was born, the first celebrity with the virus, Mr. Sleepless in Seattle.
Value.
Let me play it one more time, man. He's quoting my book.
Of course, they keep looking at that lab in Wuhan, China. If you look at that lab in Wuhan when that was established, it was 1956. Of course, that was the year Tom Hanks was born, the first celebrity with the virus, Mr. Sleepless in Seattle.
Value.
By the way,
Come on, man. Did they use like literally my voice and the things I said on my YouTube channel over and over, the words from my book, and just change? You guys have no idea how many times I've talked about 56 and the lab and Tom Hanks and Sleepless in Seattle. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And again, this movie's about a conspiracy theorist. That's how my critics would dub me. I do not like that term. It was created by the authorities to dismiss. Again, it has a connotation with it. Oh, conspiracy theorist, and people just immediately dismiss. I am a conspiracy researcher, a conspiracy exposer. I'll accept those because conspiracy is a real thing. And you can theorize on things, but my work is based in evidence and proof and undeniable examples and recurring patterns. Listen, if you're new here, if that wasn't loud enough, let me play it one more time. Make sure my audio levels are maxed out here.
of course, they keep looking at that lab in Wuhan, China. If you look at that lab in Wuhan when that was established, it was 1956. Of course, that was the year Tom Hanks was born, the first celebrity with the virus, Mr. Sleepless in
If
Seattle.
you value your life, you should think twice. Because the people are
Okay, I'm not going to play the rest of the trailer, but this movie's called Eddington. E is in elephant, D is in Dolly, D is in Dolly, I is in Ian, N is in Nancy, G is in get some. Well, that's not right. G is in George, T is in Tom, O is in onion, N is in Nancy. Eddington. Eddington, New Mexico is the town it's set in. And I'd have to look up if that's even a real place, but that's the story. So, again, he's saying that Wuhan lab's established in 56. Tom Hanks born in 56. The first celebrity with the virus. The outbreak in Seattle. Big star in Sleepless in Seattle. And remember, if you've never seen Sleepless in Seattle, his wife dies from illness at the beginning of the film. He lives in Chicago. He takes a brief trip, or the movie takes a brief trip over to the Johns Hopkins University, and the next thing you know, he's moving out to Seattle. The love interest is leaving the Johns Hopkins. So, 56. Again, Tom Hanks. Don't forget, everybody should look up Tom Hanks' first tweet when he was recovering from the virus, how he typed on a Corona typewriter that he was playing gin rummy with his wife and trailing by 201 points. Oh, boy. In Saving Private Ryan, he dies on the day, leaving 201 days left in the year. They show his tombstone June 13th. In a lot of Tom Hanks movies, there's a big fat 201. The one where he's in a robe in the airport, stuck in the airport, shortly after 9/11 happened and the Department of Homeland Security was created, when two towers became zero before they became one, like the Jesuit motto, both into one. The DHS guy is watching him through camera number 201. Go on and on and on. Again, Event 201 was the simulation for the scandemic, and then the first official case of cooties was 56 days later. Initially, then they moved it back to November 17th. It's a whole nother story. But again, Tom Hanks was doing the movie about Elvis when he got sick. This is the story. Elvis is who got the polio jab on live TV on October 28th, 1956, on Bill Gates' first birthday and also Jonas Salk's 42nd birthday. And vaccine has a gematria value of 42. Bill Gates operates out of the 42nd state. Coming back to 56. Again, Tom Hanks born in 56, the year that Elvis had that big ritual, synced with Jonas Salk and Bill Gates. And keep in mind, Bill Gates' wife comes from a family of Jesuit priests. She has the same August 15th birthday as the Jesuits. She turned 56 in 2020, as did Jeff Bezos, as did the guy who did the Da Vinci Code about the Illuminati and the Catholic Church. Gavin Newsom. He's another guy whose name equals 56. When he locked down California, he said 56% will get the virus in 8 weeks, which is 56 days. We saw a lot of Gavin Newsom and also Andrew Cuomo, the 56th governor of New York, who, like Gavin Newsom, was also Jesuit educated. Newsom went to Santa Clara in California. Cuomo went to Fordham, just like Trump. And Trump started at Fordham in 1964, 56 years before 2020. And when Trump declared his state of emergency for C-19, he did on Friday, March 13th, 2020, a date that had 56 numerology, which of course would break down to 11, the master number. That was the same day that Bill Gates broke away from Berkshire Hathaway. We were out in front of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in the freezing cold and rain all day, educating about Event 201 and what Bill Gates had said at his TED Talk in 2010, as well as what he'd said at the World Economic Forum a few days later about how in 10 years there would be a movement to mass vaccinate the world. Again, people should go back and look at the two things Bill Gates did in February of 2010, almost 10 years to the day of C-19 arriving in his backyard. And by the way, the only major city in all of America that equals 19 is Seattle. Chaos also equals 19, and they call it order out of chaos. I'm sure you remember the chaos that came out of Seattle from the World Trade Organization protests not long before the World Trade Centers came down with 19 supposed hijackers. If you don't know, the World Trade Centers were designed by a Japanese American from Seattle, the same place Boeing is, and they were all Boeing planes on 9/11. Boeing debuted their jumbo jetliners in 1968. The same year World Trade Center construction began. The same year 911 was made the national emergency dialing code. The same year George W. Bush graduated from Yale Skull and Bones. The same year the Quran code was discovered that says the Quran centered on 19. The same year Muhammad Atta was born, as well as Timothy McVeigh. Timothy McVeigh, who was put to death right before 9/11 and who was also sentenced to death on the day, leaving 201 days left in the year. Oklahoma City was a warm-up for 9/11, unprecedented events of terrorism on American soil. So much more to say about all of it. But anyway, coming back to the 56 thing. Just recently with that Wuhan lab, the media conceded that the Wuhan lab leak theory was likely real, and they literally conceded it 56 months after the pandemic was declared on March 11, 2020. And by the way, 3/11 is 201 in base 8 counting. 201 was the simulation. 3/11 was the date the pandemic was declared. Again, count on it. Learn numbers, number relationships, things like base 8 counting. There's so much to mathematics. It's layered, just like the ritualism that gets laid on us every day, that goes over almost everyone's head. But yeah, I wrote a book about this. If you want to search, it's on Amazon. It's highly reviewed. And what's sad is Amazon took away a lot of positive reviews. They just one day I came and all of a sudden I had nearly 100 less reviews than the book had before. It's almost out of nowhere. 100 less reviews. And what's weird is they didn't get rid of a troll review that's been on there the whole time. There's a false review that says, I said in the book that Joe Biden was the 47th president. I never said that. I said he was the 47th vice president who took office with a 47-year-old Obama. Kind of like how Bill Clinton took office 211 days before his 47th birthday, when 211 is the 47th prime. But anyway, this 56 number was just so massive in the pandemic. When the UK strain came out, they said it was 56% more infectious. Boris Johnson got hospitalized at age 56. Just countless 56 rituals. And I would always bring up Tom Hanks. Just, again, first celebrity, what it had to do with Elvis Presley. God, even poor Elvis, man. Dead at 42. He was with that girl whose name equals 201 when he died. He started recording with Sun Records in 54. Of course, Sun equals 54, like Jesuit order, like Golden Globes, like how his daughter died at 54 days after the Golden Globes when the actor won portraying her father, Elvis. Tom Hanks is in the movie. Jesuit order also equates to 144, like this trailer came out on 14/4, the anniversary of Lincoln getting shot, who blamed the Civil War on the Jesuits. And again, this film's going to debut on the 144th day of the year in Paris, where the Jesuits were created. But Eddington, unbelievable. I just got to hear it one more time. I can't even believe it, because God, you have no idea how many times I just said this exact same thing. And I'll tell you what else. The man who's making this movie, I have a feeling that he saw the videos that I've done on his 2 biggest movies. And if you're not familiar with this director, I'm going to play this one more time, and then I'm going to let you know about the movies he's made, because I've highly recommended to everyone that they watch his 2 big movies. They're both very creepy, they're very disturbing, but they're also very revealing.
Of course, they keep looking at that lab in Wuhan, China. If you look at that lab in Wuhan when that was established, it was 1956. Of course, that was the year Tom Hanks was born, the first celebrity with the virus, Mr. Sleepless in
It
Seattle.
can value your life.
That's what I'd always say, Mr. Sleepless in Seattle. It's like, just killing me, man. It's possible, though, that I gave this director that inspiration, because I did put out pretty long videos on 2 of his movies years ago in the past. God, I have to think of the titles right now. Ari Aster. He did a movie on a woman who's part of a cult, and her family does not know that she's part of a cult. It's called Hereditary. That's what this movie's called, Hereditary. She's part of a cult, and this cult does ritual human sacrifice to bring about a demon. They're trying to bring a demon into the world. And you can look up my old work on Hereditary. This movie was released on the perfect date that corresponds with this actual demon that's a real thing from the Goetia. Again, it's one of the 72 demons in the Goetia. Everything about the movie is encoded through this gematria lens that syncs up with the demon. And another very special number we haven't touched on tonight, but it comes up all the time, is 93. It's a number relevant to two things that are very special about time: Saturn, which has a gematria value of 93, and the sun, which is said to be 93 million miles away. 93 is a big number in this movie. And keep in mind, Saturn is related to Satan in the occult. But yeah, if you've never seen this movie, I'm telling you, it's well done, but just some really disturbing stuff happens. You see a child get their head knocked off their shoulders in this movie. Not the type of stuff you typically see in Hollywood productions. If you can handle watching things like that, I think this movie is worth watching. Simply to understand that this kind of stuff is going on. It's not just in movies. This is like a movie that's trying to bring to light things that are happening in this world. His other big movie, it's not as gematria encoded as far as I can tell, but it's also very interesting. And again, it has to do with human sacrifice. And if you open your eyes, you'll see that human sacrifice is happening a lot for people on the world stage. To be in the positions they're in, it requires blood. And I remember learning about in school coming up that this is what ancient civilizations did, especially the Mayans and Aztecs, who pretty much put themselves out of business, out of existence through sacrifice, at least what we learned in our history books. But yeah, this Midsummer movie is about a girl at a college campus saying, hey, you guys want to come hang out with my family in this beautiful place for, I forget, spring break or summer break? It's probably summer break, midsummer. Yeah, it must be summer break. Well, she knows that she's inviting them, and this is going to be their last summer break because they got plans for sacrifice. Now he's doing this movie about Cooties 19 with that introduction. And again, if you look into what Bill Gates said at his TED Talk in 2010, I remember his father was into eugenics. One of the main co-sponsors of Planned Parenthood. He helped really elevate Planned Parenthood's reach. And I cannot think of the woman who founded Planned Parenthood, but remember, Bill Gates Sr. did die in 2020 by the numbers in the time of the scandemic. By the way, William Henry Gates equals 201. Both of them are 201 because Bill Gates is junior. But if you run it in reverse, it equals 258. Just like Order of Illuminati is 201 and 258. And the father died on the 258th day of 2020. On the same day that Mark Zuckerberg, who has a lot of parallels, another Jesuit puppet in big tech, bought a whole bunch of real estate up in the Seattle Bellevue area. Same day that Bill Gates' father died. Anyway, that's another story. But the day that his father died was on the anniversary of either the death or the birthday of the founder of Planned Parenthood. Anyhow, Bill Gates, I'd played the clip of what he said at his TED Talk, but every time I've ever shared it on YouTube, I've had my video deleted and been suspended for a week. So I just encourage you to just look it up on YouTube yourself and just watch the actual TED Talk. It's about 26 minutes long, but you only need to listen. It's right near the beginning. It's not more than 6 minutes into it where Bill Gates says exactly what you need to hear about how we can reduce population. Talks about it like it's, I don't know, like he's picking out a flavor of ice cream at Baskin and Robbins. Like it's nothing. Damn, this guy, I just realized this director is only 38 years old. How about that? I thought, God, how's he know about all this stuff? Is he really behind these movies? What family was he born into? But yeah, the beginning of that trailer is just blowing my mind because when I heard it, I was like, maybe I got on his radar because I did some long videos on his 2 movies once upon a time. Maybe you just never know who's following you when you put stuff out on social media. And I guess that's another reason we'll do this podcast. Maybe one day with enough persistence, enough perseverance, we'll finally get the the person with the monster name and bankroll out there to help us get this knowledge out in front of the eyes of the masses in the way it's deserved. We've worked extra hard at doing it, but it's hard when you're censored and deleted. For you guys who don't know my track record, I'm on channel number 25 on YouTube, and the 25th channel has been the most frustrating channel ever. They've allowed it to exist for 3 years, which is a long time for me. Typically, my channels last anywhere from a week to a few months, but the thing is, I've been grinding 3 years and not a single video has gotten any views. As somebody who's produced over 100 videos easily that have gotten 500,000 to 1,000,000 views in 3 years on the latest channel that's been allowed to exist, uh, only a handful of videos have gotten more than 10,000 views, which is absolutely pathetic. In 2017, after my work had become pretty well established, after USA Today wrote their hit piece on me, and Vice News and Sports Illustrated and some other publications, I consistently averaged at least 100,000 views a video. And now I average probably, if I'm lucky, 2,000 views a video. So that's also another reason this podcast is here, trying out a new name, seeing if a new name can help overcome some hurdles. I was thinking about not even saying Zachary K. Hubbard or Gematria on this because I feel like those are shadow ban worthy words. So I was just thinking about calling it just counting numbers, referring to myself as the Zeke. But no, the word needs to be said because it's just a word that not enough people have heard. It's foreign to almost everybody, but it really is something that everyone deserves to know about because this knowledge is being used to literally mock us every single day. And if you can just put on the glasses, the gematria lens like Roddy Piper and They Live, you'll be now part of the team that's dedicated to doing something about putting an end to the mocking. At least that's the hope. You can count on that being the continual message on the Count On It podcast. With that said, Truth Seeker, we will also take calls on this show. And if you do call in, I would like you to be really efficient and to the point and try to at least have your thought touch, even if ever so slightly, on something that I talked about in the show. Historically, when I've done live call-ins in my radio show, my callers are all over the place, and it does drive me a little bit insane. I really would like the callers to do their best. I don't have a screener, so it's Scout's honor over here. I would like you to call in and be on point. And if you just want to save the number in your phone, it's going to continue to be the same number for each show. I will tell you that number right now. It is 509 560 4982. 509 560 4982. That is the number to call. And in the future, I'll work on getting it up on the screen. This will be uploaded as a podcast, but it will also be on YouTube. And I do intend to put it on the channel Count On It, but right now that channel has not been approved yet for live streaming. So for the time being, the Count On It podcast will be going on my old channel, where seemingly it won't reach many new viewers because it's an algorithm hell. But that channel is GematriaEffectNews 25 on YouTube. Gematria, Gematria, Effect News 25. And I want to wrap this show up in 23 minutes, which is 11 p.m. on the West Coast. That's usually when my daughter wakes up, and I got to feed her and rock her to sleep. So if you would like to call in, and if the first one to call in, you're going to be the first voice as a guest on the first Count On It podcast. So the pressure's on. Make it good. 509 560 4982. We recently upgraded the audio system over here so that we can have these phone calls go straight into a soundboard to get optimal sound quality and make it as professional as possible. But yeah, if you would like to phone in tonight and say anything relevant to the show, or another topic you're welcome to call in with is just say things you would like to see me cover in the show. 509-560-4982. Here is our first caller from the 661 area code. And 661, how do you do this evening?
Hey, Zach, how's it going?
Yeah, well,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but there's like major wind into your mic. It sounds like you're either
All right, how's that? Can you hear me now?
There's so much noise into your phone. It's like I don't know if you're breathing super heavily or what, but this is not making a great first call. Just go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. Anyways, yeah, I saw your debate with Andrew Wilson. And that whole thing, those people are just, it was so disagreeable. It was so like immature and like lowbrow. The whole thing, not you. You're the only classy person there.
Yeah, I realize so that's something. Friend, I'm going to let you go because there's something horribly wrong. I appreciate your call, man, but I got to get somebody else on here. Yeah, if you guys do call in, please make sure your audio, because I don't know what was going on there. It sounded like there was a boxing match in the phone. I do want to say that it seems like there's a lot of charlatans being promoted on YouTube by the platform on purpose, divisive people, misleaders, and it bothers me because I've been taken down so many times and I've gotten an email from YouTube that says I'm dangerous, I'm not safe for their audience, while meanwhile they promote these horrible human beings who are absolutely disgusting and fraudulent. And meanwhile, what I've been doing has the means to save lives and change the world for the better. What's up, 772?
Hey man, what's up? I found something pretty. So Pope Francis Pope entered the Society of Jesus on March 11th, 1958, and that was exactly 62 years to the day before the pandemic was declared a pandemic on March 11th, 2020, and coronavirus pandemic equals 293, the 60-second prime. Also, some other stuff that's interesting. They say that 44% of the population is vaccinated for this. You know what? Also that 44 countries have their injection rates under 20%. So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. Some interesting stuff.
Good research as always, young man. Appreciate it, Sebastian.
All right, thanks.
All right,
I'm also live right now on my channel.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah. Do you want to promote your channel? Might as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to call into my last live stream on Truth Does Not Exist, I'm live right now. I'm taking calls and stuff. People can join if they want. But yeah, this is gonna be it.
All right. Truth Does Not Exist.
Good luck
Thank
to
you,
the
Sebastian.
podcast.
Yeah, take care, man. What's up, 407? Oh, hold on. I gotta switch. I hit the wrong button. Let me put you on the right. There we go. What's up, 407?
All right.
You're good. I hear you.
All right, cool. So I just wanted to call in about the shooting that happened today and how we always talk about the connections to news, media, sports, government, and everything. I wasn't able to call into the Patreon about it, but I knew that there was a national shooting to look at the player Gunnar Henderson on the Orioles. So I looked into him, and today was 292 days after his birthday. And if you type in Florida State University where the shooting happened equals 292. So I knew that after seeing that, I was like, okay, this guy probably has a good chance to hit his first home run of the season today. And I think he did it on his first at bat as well. So that was a connection that I learned from you. Another thing that I looked into was players who went to FSU. And there was one player, his name was Cal Raleigh. I think he's on the Mariners. He also hit a home run today. And then the third player was Taylor Walls. He did not hit a home run, but he did have an RBI, and I think he's kind of a younger player. So, but yeah, I was able to make a good amount of money today from the information I learned from you that you've been teaching. So I appreciate that.
I appreciate that. And for the new person out there listening, they might find it hard to believe that they could possibly sync up a baseball player named Gunner with a mass shooting. But hey, you stick around and watch, you're going to see just how tied in news and sports are and truly how scripted it is. And for anybody out there who'd say, well, how can you script a home run? Have you ever been to a baseball game and watch these guys take batting practice? They can hit the ball over the fence every time. Not to mention there are different cores you can get for baseballs, just like in softball, and some fly a lot further than others. So if there's a scripted moment for a home run, there's all kinds of ways it can be contrived. And again, a lot of people are so quick to speak and need to do a little more research and observation in their own lifetime. Because, yeah, these games are rigged just like the news is. And this man on the phone, you'll hear his voice a lot. He hasn't been around a long time, but he's a great student, great contributor, and uses the knowledge with great efficiency, especially in the world of sports gambling. So appreciate it, 407. Thank you.
Yeah, and then one more thing that I wanted to add. I was talking to someone earlier today, and they brought up how there was another shooting at FSU. I think this was in 2014 in the library there, and it was also on a Thursday. Well, I'm sure there's more to it. I didn't really look into it, like the date span and things like that, but I found that interesting having them both on Thursday. There's probably more to it.
Hey, I'll have to look at how many. That means they're exactly a certain amount of number of weeks apart. I'm going to have to look that up too. I didn't remember the prior one.
Yeah.
And it's also, I can't think of it. His name's escaping me right now, but the former Florida State athlete, and he coached football there, and he's been on ESPN talking college football for decades. He just happened to retire. Yeah. And I guarantee he's a Catholic, Italian. Just happened to retire the same day at the shooting. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff is sick. We go on and on, like the Carmelo Anthony, the two Carmelo Anthony news on the same day. Like,
right, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a big buzzing topic right now. The Carmelo Anthony stabbing on the same day that Carmelo Anthony is nominated in the Naismith Hall of Fame. The only other Carmelo Anthony we ever heard of before, the famous basketball player. And we won't even get into that happening on 4/2 in light of the 42 code on Black History. But yeah, absolutely. Coincidence training.
Yeah, so hopefully whoever is new here listening is here to stay, here to learn. The first year I found this information, I spent, just sitting in the background listening. And you quickly see how the same numbers come up every day. I mean, there's really nothing that you could deny or put against this, because everything that is being shown is what's being shown to us from the news. And we're just putting the pieces together. So, yeah, I appreciate you once again, Zach, and I'll continue listening and supporting.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you. You have a good night.
You too.
All right, take care. All right. A common complaint is the beep from the call waiting. I'll have you know that right now I'm trying to figure out how to turn it off. If you guys can try and time your calls, if you're out there listening, you're probably on a 5 to 10 second delay. But if it sounds like the call's starting to wind down, that might be the time to start punching in the phone number rather than calling over and over mid-conversation. What's up, 559?
What's up, Zach? I had a call back, man. Got a couple of things, man. I want to reveal all the stuff that I've learned. It's kind of on par with everything that you know about. I mentioned that woman, Deborah Tavares, again. She has a website, stopthecrime.net. It's been up for a while, maybe about 15 years. She has another website called primarywater.org, where she exposes. She was wealthy, so she knows a lot of very educated people that did a lot of research, a lot of mathematicians and geologists. And they discovered that this planet is not running out of water. That water is continuously made underneath the Earth's mantle, and it comes up in springs and geysers around the world. And they're lying about it, making it seem as if we're running out of water. So they have to do desalinization and take ocean water, and they also have to recycle water, which is
a
diabolical.
We're calling in about somebody else's work, and so far, just nothing that has to do with anything we're talking about tonight. I'm all for promoting
No,
other
no,
people,
it
but
doesn't. It doesn't.
yeah,
It doesn't. But that's not the main thing I was calling about. I just wanted to mention that. I wanted to mention to you the NASA war document because you were talking about the people and how the people being depopulated goes along with these numbers. But there's on her website, the reason why I mentioned her, she has a document called the NASA war document. Look that up, and it describes how these people that run the planet have percentages of every country around the world that they wanted to depopulate by, and they wanted this done by the year 2025. Now, I knew about this document like 10 years ago, and as soon as that the virus came and that vaccine, I said, damn,
It's the
this is it.
Deagle document. Yeah, it's the Deagle website. The Deagle website 15, 20 years ago had up there that there was going to be, for whatever reason, a major population dip in 2025. It remains to be seen. The year is still young, but
Why would they do that, Zach? Why would they put that right there, right in your face, right there in the document? They put it there for you to see. Why would they do that?
well, I mean, not many people in the world even know what Deagle is or ever looked up the website, but the truth-seeking community
Yeah,
is
but
very.
why even make it accessible? Why even make it accessible? Why would they do that?
Well, the authorities would say
For
that
a
the
few
Deagle website's not credible, so that's the other argument.
Hmm. Okay, another thing I needed to know from you, these people, since you know everything about the numbers, I mean, boy, they must have some brilliant mathematicians working around the clock to coordinate all this stuff. Do you believe that's the case?
Well, I would
And they
imagine at
just
this.
like,
No, I would imagine at this point in the game that it's computers, it's AI. It's just like you buy a video game, you can simulate the whole football season, right? I mean, they got it all planned out. And I mean, your $50 video game that you buy, they got all the moves made on the date and what happened in this game. Computers have been able to do this stuff for a while.
hmm. Lastly, here, the Carmelo Anthony thing. You think that that's staged and that was coordinated to go with these numbers?
That's you must be new here, man. That's all the news is every single day. I mean, yeah, Carmelo, the way it's spelled with a K equals 42 on 4-2, when that's the number they stamp over every black shaming ritual that's ever graced the news. And like I said, it also happened on the anniversary of Rodney King's birthday. Rodney King's birthday, and now there's this race war element coming out of it. It's so obvious.
Hey Zach, how do you do that, man? You have all the numbers and everything. How do you do that? You prepare yourself every day, watch the news around the clock. How do you do that, man?
I've been here every day for over 12 years presenting on all of these topics. I've written massive books. My first book's 800 pages, and it talks in depth about Rodney King. My second book's nearly 400 pages. And even before I started this, I was researching and trying to understand what's really going on in this world because I never bought really any of the lies from any of the authorities. I mean, I was the kid in the classroom who said, "How can you teach me every year that Christopher Columbus discovered a land where people already live? How can you tell me Hitler self-deleted himself, but his body was never found? I don't even understand how that can be written down in a book without somebody laughing their ass off." This is the kind of stuff they force fed us our whole life and just expected us to believe it because it was written down in a book and told to us by the authorities. And if we could remember to circle that Hitler self-deleted himself, but his body was never found, we get an A in the class. That's the world we're living in, man.
Last thing I got to know from you real quick, man. I'm hearing some stuff, man, about the population of China being down about 400 to 500 million since the pandemic. You heard anything about
it's
that?
hard to say. They're a very closed off nation. I don't know. I guess it wouldn't surprise me because, again, for real don't know, people should look into Henry Kissinger when he was alive and a lot younger man. He held a conference bringing together several leaders of world nations, and they put out, look it up, a plan to depopulate in 47 countries. Yeah, 47. So China, we've learned for all of our lives that China is one of the most overpopulated places, along with India. Um, I, I would say to you they've been using all kinds of depopulation tactics all over the continent of Africa. I remember in 2020 when Bill Gates was showing what a generous philanthropist he was by offering jobs for darker complected people to go inside netted areas and get eaten alive by his GMO mosquitoes. And I thought, man, why not offer that job in Seattle? You know, why offer that one in Africa where you can get experimentally bitten a gazillion times by GMO mosquitoes? I mean, and then we always hear about all the, you know, things plaguing the continent of Africa that tend not to exist in the Western world. And I think the answers for why that is are right in front of your face when you're seeing things that philanthropists like Bill Gates are doing. Yeah, depopulation is a very real thing. Everyone should look up the 201-page book published in 1968 by the Yale professor, The Population Bomb, about why depopulation is so essential. Again, every major depopulation agenda going on right now has 201 on it. The World Trade Centers started the massive wars across the world that have killed millions of people. 2 towers became 0 before they became 1. Event 201, that was the simulation for Cooties 19, which a lot of, especially elderly people, the Social Security burden age, are out of here. And there's been more than that. The LGBTQ thing, there's a lot more people into that because it's been introduced to society as hip and cool, and people are easily persuaded by the authorities. You know, and the transgender things become very popular. Caitlyn Jenner equals 201. Jenner sounds like gender. That show came out a decade ago now, and man, you just see the younger generation, how they have really gravitated toward this. Again, even in my own family, I have 3 nephews and a niece. She was the only girl of the 4 children. She identifies as a boy now. She changed her name to Alex, and you know, she's moved up to Seattle. You know, it's yeah, again, you know, if you're LGBTQ, I mean, more power to you if that's what you want to do, but you're not going to be procreating. So that's how all these things fit in with the depopulation. Anyway, friend, I got to let a few more people get in tonight, but if you got one more thing, go ahead.
I would like to ask you another question, but I should save it. But it's kind of on par with this, man. I want to ask you why you think this is happening, but that is really a bigger question. I want to ask you, but then I don't want to ask it. But
well,
I'm going to
think
ask
about it
you
this way.
anyway.
Think about it this way. The cabal uses people for their own benefit to generate more wealth for them, more power and control for them. They use people to build up their own wealth and power. We're now at an age where people aren't nearly as necessary. Machinery, automation, AI. The last 100 years, the Industrial Revolution has made people less and less necessary. So, long story short. Appreciate it, though. Yeah. Call back next time. I'll let somebody else in tonight. Appreciate it, man. Thank you. What's up, 870? Oh, hold on. I did it again. I hit the wrong button. Let me get you on here on the right settings.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good. What's up, 870?
Okay. Well, speaking of 201, that is me, my buddy, I've been showing him his Gematria stuff. So, like, there's a video game me and my kids play, Fortnite. Are you familiar with that or no?
I'm aware that that's a video game. I've never played it myself, Fortnite.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that and Minecraft are big viral sensations. Go ahead.
Well, we play that with my kids, you know what I'm saying? And I'm trying to give them that. But anytime you have like a matchmaking error, it's always error code 201.
Is that right?
And exactly, every fucking time, 201 match, like that. Basically, if you're going to go into the game, into the match, and something happens like an error, like the system messes up, it's always 201. And then the company I work for, we just had a training thing, and the training course was called 201. I work for a big fucking corporation, Verizon. And I told my buddy, man, I'm like, man, this is fucking crazy. It's like, wow, why would you call it training 201?
Yeah,
so,
that is very interesting.
And I tell him, the guy that I talked to, I'm like, man, bro, you know, he follows your work too. And I'm like, why couldn't it be 101, 102? But no, they called it 201 training.
Yeah, you don't start at 101 like you typically would in a class. You just jump right to the 201. Interesting. Okay.
Exactly. And I was just like, wow. And it's crazy, man. When you see these numbers, they're every day in your face, you know? They put the 201 all the time, you know? It's unreal. The average person don't see it, you know? Because they're like programmed, you know? They're like in the fucking matrix, I guess, you know?
Yeah. Just one thing, I don't mind if you guys cuss occasionally, but I just on this platform for uploading the podcast, it asks there's a button if there's swearing in the episode, and from what I read, your stuff gets less syndicated with swearing, especially with f bombs. So I think I'm gonna try to minimize that language.
My bad. My bad.
Yeah, it's
My bad.
okay. It's okay. I normally, I mean, I don't mind, but I do want the work to reach people, and if that's what it takes.
Yeah, exactly. We got to reach the most people because most people are they're not aware of this. That's what's crazy, you know.
Right.
But ever since I've been watching you, man, it's been 201. And you know, before I let you go, dude, in the town I just moved to this town. There are so many addresses that's 201 right now in this town. Subway, the hotel. Like, there's like 8 addresses in this town that's 201. Like, I'll give you an example. McDonald's is 105. Then the next thing over there is 107. Well, you would think the next address would be like 109. Nope, skip the 201.
Interesting.
So,
you never know.
Yeah. Exactly. I told my buddy, I was joking when I moved here. I said, bro, I said, you know how many 201s are here? There's at least 8 or 9 addresses at 201, and they're all big franchises like hospitals, doctors. They're all 201. That's our address, you know? So, but when you know the code, you see this, and it makes you kind of think, like, well, let's start questioning this stuff, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But, hey, before I let you go, did you do any research on that killing in Dallas about that little 17-year-old black kid? Because that kid's popular feed about that black kid, and you know, trying
Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony. We were just talking about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So my thing is like, okay, if you bought a knife there, well, that's not self-defense. You already had, you know what I'm saying? So. But the media is trying to make him like he's a fucking, like he's a self-defense. And I'm like, I don't know. So did you do any research on that? Or
we were just talking about it with the last caller. And yeah.
Okay.
Again, the whole thing is a psychological operation. It happened on Rodney King's birthday anniversary. And again, it happened the same day that Carmelo Anthony, the only person who we'd ever heard of ever that had that name, the famous basketball player, was nominated into the Naismith Hall of Fame. Again, it sounds like you should probably read my first book, Letters and Numbers, and read chapter 18 specifically about the race war code of 42. And again, here we go. So same thing. Rodney King's birthday, race war story, black kid, white kid. And carrying a knife, I don't know, a lot of people carry a knife, and it could be self-defense if the other person initiated the fight and was bigger. So anyway, man, appreciate the call. Thank you. Yeah, if you guys are listening to the show, make sure you're listening to the show. I mean, literally just got done talking about Carmelo Anthony. And also, you guys understand, like, most of the content I am putting out on YouTube, like, I've definitely covered that multiple times. YouTube is suppressing almost every video I make so they don't show up in your feed. Actually, click on my channel and go through the video wall and the live wall. I did some really great work on the Carmelo Anthony thing, and I've been getting that a lot in my comments. How come you haven't covered Carmelo Anthony? It's like, how come you guys haven't learned how to search on a YouTube channel? If you guys just sit there and wait for stuff to show up on your feed to click on, you can count on it. You're doing exactly what the authorities want, only looking at what they show you. All right, we got to close it out here with Young Jay. I'm going to wrap it up after a Young Jay call. What's up, Jay?
It's like, yeah, this is going to be 30 seconds long. I didn't plan on calling in. It's about the last caller. Just because I know this this situation is a psyop and it's, it's a probably a fake story. But this isn't about the story. I just want people to know like what self-defense is, because I just see a lot of people just on the internet just clearly like misconstruing what self-defense is. It's the same logic of why you bring a gun where you go. You're not looking for a fight. The whole point is you just have it just in case. If I would put on a seatbelt before I drive my car, I'm not looking to get in a car accident. You know what I'm saying? So
when he
that's all
just
I
said
wanted
that to me, I said, this doesn't sound like my type of audience follower to even call and make these remarks.
Like this is my type of guy. Like
yeah. No, it sounded like a guy who plays Fortnite all day and knows nothing about nothing. That's what it sounded like. I was like, okay, it's starting to make sense.
Like
he started
if you
with
step to
Fortnite.
somebody that gave a warning and they stab you, and you're like that's 100% self-defense. Like what are you doing?
Yeah,
that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. Like, and again, Jay's a young guy, but he's light years ahead of the average American. So appreciate it, Jay.
All right, no problem.
All right, take care. Yeah. Again, you guys, I want good callers. I want good callers on this program. If you don't know that you're not a good caller, trust me, I'll let you know by just blocking the phone number so it doesn't ever ring in my phone again. But yeah, the end of that last caller was just like, dude, I mean, you just sound like a completely ignorant person. Yeah. A protection device can be used for self-defense. What's up, Joey? Joey.
Yo.
I
didn't hear anything. For.
Yeah, I think sometimes it might take a second with this system for it to register, but go ahead.
So we just had Jackie Robinson Day in the MLB, and it was on the 15th of April.
And just for the record,
Jackie Robinson.
Just for the record, since you're gonna bring up Jackie Robinson Day, of course, Jackie equals 42, like number 42. One of the best rituals going on Jackie Robinson Day was Max Fried, now with the Yankees, going for his 76th career win. Jackie Robinson Day equals 76. Jack Robinson alone equals 76. Go look at the score of the Yankees game where he did pick up his 76th win, 4-2. Go ahead, Joey.
Yeah, and of course, slave equals 76. And slave also equals 59. And we'll get to why that matters, because the Jackie Robinson, he came, originally he played for the Kansas City Monarchs in the Negro League. And the Royals from Kansas City, they came into the game on Jackie Robinson Day on 4,259 wins all time. Like you write the number 4,259 like 4259. And of course, you always talk about
for people who are new here, my first book, which I wrote in 2017, Letters and Numbers, chapter 18 is about the race war and how the numbers 42 and 59 come together. Make a long story short, slavery equals 42, slave equals 59. They get paired all the time. Yeah, great catch. I didn't see that. Great catch.
Yeah, they're still on 42.59 as of Friday
and that was
morning.
Again, they were playing against the Yankees.
So.
They were playing against the Yankees, who beat them 4-2 on Jackie Robinson Day.
Right, yep. So isn't that just amazing that they would come in on that number on Jackie Robinson Day?
Well, again, it's proof of how scripted it all is. Remember last year they made home teams 11-14 when they got eliminated by the Yankees. They're the Royals, and King Charles, the Royal of Royals right now, has an 11-14 birthday. Home teams became 11-14 in the postseason when they got eliminated by the Yankees. Just perfect scripts year after year. A great one that just happened in the NBA. The Warriors in San Francisco, where the Church of Satan was established. Steve Kerr just picked up his 666th career win on the 95th birthday anniversary of Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan. If you spell out 666, it equates to 95 in gematria, just like 95 weeks in a day is 666 days. Warriors also equals 95. Again, if you're new here, Anton LaVey died 201 days from his birthday and also 201 days from the sitting Pope's birthday, telling you who's really behind that church. So the same Jesuits that create all kinds of division and chaos in the world. But yeah, again, these rituals, if you catch them, you're like, man, they really had this lined up a long time coming to make that work out. Absolutely.
Yeah, and another thing I learned on this channel is that Philadelphia is the 118 city. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania equals 118, as does Philadelphia, PA, as you would write it on an envelope. And of course, today they became 11-8.
Yeah, and they represented
And
the
they made it
118th World Series. We had again, this is what we do in the morning with sports. We thought Philadelphia looked like one of the locks today in baseball for the 118. And in spring training of the year of the 118th World Series, we said it's either going to be the Phillies or the Dodgers to represent the NL in the World Series because they're the only two cities with the 118 connection. Sure enough, Philadelphia, who's what we wanted because they were the bigger payout, they represent the NL in the 118th World Series. Absolutely. And here's what else is wild.
Exactly.
Here's what else is wild. Barry Bonds, who played for the Giants, who lost to the Phillies today, he also played for the Pirates, the other Pennsylvania team. Barry Bonds equals 118. And today was 267 days after his birthday, which is the Philadelphia area code. Again, you learn area codes, you see the way they play in sports. A few days ago, Columbus beat the Flyers 3-0. That was a huge payout. We thought that would very well be the exact score because we saw before the game that if Columbus scored 3 and allowed 0, they would have 267 goals for the year and 267 goals allowed for the year. Exactly what happened, monster payout. That same day, Minneapolis in baseball, the Twins became 6-12, like Minneapolis at the 612 area code. Yesterday, we loved the Mariners to beat the Reds to become 20-6 versus the Reds all time because Seattle's the 206 area code, just like when they won their only rigged Super Bowl. Russell Wilson had 206 passing yards, on and on and on and on and on. Go ahead, Joey.
Yeah, I was going to mention the Minneapolis 612. Yeah, I've seen that one. But yeah, what they do is just undeniable.
Can you
This
count on it,
knowledge is
Joey? Can you
undeniable.
count on it? Can you count on it?
You can count on it.
Indeed,
for sure.
indeed. We're gonna abuse that phrase over here because literally, I mean, you can just count on this stuff going on day after day. The same rig sports, the same rig news, the same ritualistic code. Once you're aware of it, it is so redundant and it truly is undeniable. And the reason so many people don't recognize that is because they don't even give it a chance. And that's the mistake a lot of people have made who've crossed the path of this knowledge.
Fact. And yeah, good first show. And that's all I have, man. Peace.
All right. Take care, Joey. It's 11:11 out here on the West Coast. You know what? That's the master number. This is the first episode. My daughter, I hear her crying in the background. It's the time to go be a father. All right, you guys, you have a good night. And until next time, True Seeker.